Marville was the kind of place people only mentioned when something went wrong. On the news, it was always a shooting in Marville, or another overdose in Marville, or police activity in the Marville projects. No one ever talked about the kids who still did homework under flickering lights, or the mothers who worked 2 jobs, or the quiet girls who learned how to survive by disappearing. Nevaeh Garcia was one of those girls. Every morning at 5:45, her alarm rang softly. No loud music, no snooze button, just a gentle chime that fit her life. She rose before the sun, folded her blanket tight, and washed her face in cold water. The mirror above the sink was cracked, splitting her reflection into 2 pieces. One half looked like the girl everyone saw. Small, pretty, polite, harmless. The other half was only for her. She brushed her long black hair carefully and braided it down her back. Her brown eyes stayed low, never lingering too long on herself. Looking too closely always felt dangerous. In the kitchen, Lucia Garcia was already dressed in her cafeteria uniform, tying her shoes. "Buenos dias, mija," her mother said, tired but smiling. "Buenos dias, mama," Nevaeh replied. She poured coffee for her mother and warmed tortillas on the stove. They ate in near silence, the television murmuring crime reports and weather warnings. "Tines to do para la escuela?" Lucia asked. Nevaeh said, "Me cuaderno mis libros to do." Lucia reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. "Estoy orgullosa de ti." Nevaeh smiled. Inside, something tightened. Jefferson Heights High stood like a concrete prison in the middle of Marville. Faded murals peeled from its walls. Metal detectors greeted students every morning like silent judges. Nevaeh walked through them without a sound. She never set them off, never argued, never ran. Teachers nodded at her, security barely noticed her. That was the goal. In first period, she sat in the 3rd row, 2nd seat from the window, always the same place. Predictable meant safe. "Ms. Garcia," Mr. Howell called, "can you read the next paragraph?" Nevaeh stood. Her voice was soft but clear. She read in perfect English, every word precise. When she finished, she sat back down without looking at anyone. A few girls whispered behind her. "Why she always so quiet? She thinks she better than everybody." Nevaeh pretended not to hear. She always did. Lunch was the loneliest part of the day. She usually ate in the far corner of the cafeteria, near the vending machines that never worked. Today was no different. She opened her container, rice, beans, and chicken her mother had packed. Across the room, laughter exploded from a crowded table. Near the doors, 2 girls argued loudly. A boy slammed his tray down and cursed. Chaos was normal here. Nevaeh stayed still inside it. "Hey, Nevaeh." She looked up. Evan Brooks stood in front of her table, backpack slung over one shoulder. He was tall, with tired eyes and an awkward smile. "Can I sit?" he asked. She hesitated. Okay." He sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "You're good at math," Evan said finally. "You helped me last week." "It was nothing," she replied. He studied her for a second. "You always say that." She looked back down at her food. Some things were safer left unsaid. After school, Nevaeh walked home alone. She passed liquor stores, boarded-up shops, and graffiti-covered walls. A group of men argued loudly on a corner. A woman shouted from a window 3 floors up. Marville breathed chaos. But Nevaeh walked calmly through it. At the tutoring center on Pine Street, she slowed. The windows were dark, the sign was crooked. Whitman Academic Services was still painted above the door, but the letters were peeling. No one had rented the space since Mr. Whitman disappeared. Most people had forgotten. Nevaeh hadn't. She paused for 3 seconds, then kept walking. That night, she sat at her desk and opened her notebook. Inside were neat rows of handwriting. Dates, times, named places. Not homework. Records. She turned to a blank page and wrote, "Alicia Trent, Club Aurora, February 12." Underneath, she drew a small heart. Perfect. Careful. Controlled. She closed the notebook and slid it into her backpack. Behind her poster, the small box waited. Inside, dozens of white paper shapes rested like frozen memories. She removed one. A tiny crane. Her fingers were steady as she folded another beside it. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Nevaeh didn't flinch. She whispered in Spanish, barely audible. Uno por uno. One by one. Nevaeh learned early that danger never announced itself. It didn't arrive with shouting or sirens. It came softly, with compliments, with promises, with smiles that stayed too long. That was how Mr. Whitman had done it. And that was how Marcus Hale tried next. Marcus worked security at Club Aurora. He was 26, tall, broad, always wearing black. He stood near the entrance every Friday and Saturday night, checking IDs, waving people through, pretending not to see what happened in the shadows. Nevaeh first noticed him when Alicia Trent invited her to help promote one of the club's teen nights. "It's easy money," Alicia had said, lips painted red. "You just pass flyers, be cute, smile." Nevaeh had needed the money. So she went. Marcus noticed her immediately. "Little girl don't belong out here," he said with a grin. "I'm 17, she replied quietly. He laughed, same thing. At first he only talked. Asked where she lived, who she lived with, if she had a boyfriend. She answered carefully. Half-truths, safe lies. Then one night, Alicia left early. "Marcus got you," she said, already drunk. "He'll walk you home." Nevaeh's stomach tightened. "I'm okay," she said. But Alicia was gone. And Marcus was smiling. They didn't walk far. Just behind the club. Into the alley where music still thumped through brick walls. "That neighborhood of yours rough," Marcus said. "You need somebody watching you." "I'm fine," Nevaeh replied. He stepped closer. "You too pretty to be alone." She froze. He mistook it for permission. Later, when she lay in bed staring at her ceiling, Nevaeh did not cry. She did not scream. She did not tell her mother. She opened her notebook. And she wrote, "Marcus Hale, Club Aurora, March 3. Then she drew a small star. Planning was the part she loved. Not because it was fun. Because it was clean. Order in a world that never gave her any. She learned Marcus's schedule, his routes, his habits. He smoked behind the club at 2:15 a.m. every night. He left through the back door at 2:40. Every night. He walked home alone. Every night. 3 weeks later it rained. Hard, relentless. Marville streets flooded with dirty water and broken reflections. Nevaeh wore a hoodie and loose jeans. No braids, no makeup, no recognition. She waited in the alley. Counting. Breathing. Listening. 2:38, 2:39. The door creaked. Marcus stepped out, lighting a cigarette. He stepped from the shadows. "Hey," she said softly. He squinted. "Do I know you?" "Maybe," she replied. He shrugged. "Come here." He reached. She moved first. The wire cut deeper than he expected. He never even saw it. Wrapped in tape, hidden in her sleeve. One pull, one twist. Silence. Rain washed the alley clean. Nevaeh worked quickly. No panic, no hesitation. She wiped surfaces, moved his phone, placed it carefully back in his pocket. Then she reached into her bag and removed a folded white star. She placed it on his chest. Centered, perfect. Marcus Hale was found the next morning. The news called it a robbery gone wrong. The police blamed gangs. No suspects. No witnesses. Only one strange detail. A paper star. Detective Mendoza stared at the photo. Green heart star. "All paper," he murmured. His partner frowned. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Mendoza nodded slowly. "This isn't random." That night, Nevaeh washed her hands until her skin turned red. Still, she felt clean. Safer. Stronger. She opened her box. 3 spaces were now filled. Green heart star. She whispered, "Para que nunca vuelva a pasar." So it never happens again. She closed the lid. And slept without dreams. The second body was found behind a laundromat on Fletcher Avenue. It was early morning, still dark enough that the streetlights hummed louder than the traffic. A delivery driver spotted it while unloading crates of bread and coffee. He screamed, dropped everything, ran. By the time police arrived, the alley was soaked in flashing red and blue. Detective Raul Mendoza stood beneath a flickering light, hands in his coat pockets, staring down at the corpse. Alicia Trent, 19, Club promoter. Pretty. Popular. Gone. She lay on her side, eyes open, mouth slightly parted as if she'd been about to say something important and never got the chance. No purse. No phone. No witnesses. But there was something else. Mendoza crouched. Right over Alicia's heart, resting neatly on her jacket, was a folded white paper heart. Perfectly centered. Like an offering. Same thing, his partner, Detective Collins, muttered behind him. Same kind of paper, same neat fold. Mendoza didn't answer. He was studying the edges. No tears. No wrinkles. No dirt. It hadn't been dropped. It had been placed. Carefully. At Jefferson Heights High, nobody talked about Alicia in full sentences. They spoke in fragments. Did you hear? Found her. Behind the girl from Aurora's. Rumors traveled faster than truth. By second period, half the school believed Alicia had run off with a dealer. By lunch, the other half thought she'd been killed by her boyfriend. Nevaeh heard it all. She sat in her usual seat, pencil moving across her notebook, eyes down. Invisible. Inside, her thoughts were slow and organized. 1 down. 2 to go. Mr. Howell was lecturing about symbolism in literature. How authors use objects to represent deeper meaning, he said, packing. A rose, a mirror, a letter. Nevaeh paused. Her pencil hovered. Symbolism. She wrote the word in tiny letters in the margin. Then underlined it twice. Detective Mendoza didn't go home after the scene. He went to his office. 4th floor. Back corner. Window facing a brick wall. His desk was cluttered with files, coffee cups, and unopened mail. He cleared a space. Then he laid out 3 photos. Marcus Hale, Alicia Trent, and Mr. Whitman. All dead. All found within a 5-mile radius. All with paper-folded shapes. Crane. Star. Heart. Different shapes. Same paper. Same precision. Same message. What are you trying to say? Mendoza murmured. He pinned the photos to the corkboard. Added a city map. Marked locations. A triangle formed. Centered in Marville. His jaw tightened. That afternoon, Nevaeh stayed after school. Not for detention. Not for tutoring. For Marisol Vega. The counseling office smelled like lavender and old books. Come in, Nevaeh, Ms. Vega said gently. Sit. Nevaeh folded herself into the chair. Hands in her lap. Back straight. Perfect posture. How have you been sleeping? Vega asked. Fine, Nevaeh said. A lie. But a soft one. And eating. Fine. Another. Vega studied her. You don't have to be strong all the time, she said. You know that, right? Nevaeh fingers tightened. People always said that. They never meant it. I'm okay, she replied. Silence settled. Then Vega said quietly, I heard about Alicia. Nevaeh nodded. She helped me once, she said. True. But incomplete. That kind of loss stays with you, Vega said. Sometimes it comes out in ways we don't expect. Nevaeh met her eyes for half a second. Then looked away. Evan found her at her locker later. You all right? He asked. She blinked. Surprised. I'm fine, she said automatically. He frowned. You've been saying that a lot. She closed her locker. Slowly. People die here all the time, she said. It's normal. The word sounded wrong even to her. Evan stared. That's not normal, he said quietly. She walked away. But his voice followed her. Nevaeh, you don't have to carry everything alone. She didn't turn around. That night rain tapped softly against her window. Nevaeh sat on her bed, notebook open. She added a new entry. Alicia Trent, Fletcher Ave, April 7. Beneath it, she drew a heart. Then after a pause, she added a tiny crack through it. Just one line. She stared at it longer than she meant to. Then closed the book. Behind the poster, the box waited. 4 shapes now rested inside. Crane. Star. Heart. Heart. 2 hearts. 1 imperfect. She picked it up. It wasn't as neat as the others. One edge was uneven. She pressed it flat with her thumb. Tried to fix it. It wouldn't straighten. Her chest tightened. She whispered, "Concentrate. Focus." Outside, a police siren wailed. Closer than before. Detective Mendoza stood in front of his board long after sunset. Red string now connected the photos. A pattern was forming. Not random. Not rage. Design. A young woman. Bilingual. Quiet. Close to every victim. He didn't know her name yet. But he felt her presence. Like a shadow just beyond reach. Somewhere in Marville, a ghost was learning to leave fingerprints. And she didn't even know it. Rain had left the streets slick and glimmering the next morning. Nevaeh walked past the same liquor stores, the same boarded-up shops, the same corners where chaos whispered in every shadow. Her hoodie was pulled tight over her hair, sneakers silent on the wet concrete. No one looked twice. That was always the first rule, be nothing. She stopped at the bus stop near the corner store. A man sat there hunched over a newspaper. His eyes flicked toward her and away before she even reached the curb. Perfect. She had already studied him the night before. Travis Cole, 28, known for harassment downtown, drank too much, thought women who didn't fight back were easy. Nevaeh had chosen him carefully, vulnerable, predictable, dangerous, but not too dangerous. Timing was everything. At school, she moved through hallways like a shadow. Evan Brooks noticed her again. "You're quiet today," he said, stepping beside her in the stairwell. "I'm always quiet," she said, keeping her eyes forward. He frowned. "You're hiding something." Her heart ticked faster. "Maybe," she whispered, barely audible. By 2:00 a.m., Marville slept fitfully under streetlights and buzzing neon. Nevaeh left her apartment quietly, backpack slung across her shoulder, hoodie up. She walked to the alley behind the small convenience store. Travis would be there. He came every night at the same time. She watched, counted, breath steady. When he appeared, cigarette glowing orange in the dark, she moved. "Hey," she said softly. He looked up. "Do I know you?" "Maybe," she said, stepping closer. Travis laughed, the sound harsh in the night air. "Little girl, don't belong out here, you lost." "I'm fine," she said. He squinted, annoyed. "Just keep walking, kid," he said, trying to dismiss her. She smiled faintly, not sweet, controlled. One step, two. The wire was ready, her hands steady. Travis never saw her move. One pull, one twist. Silence. Except. His arm flailed, he fell against the brick wall, groaning. Nevaeh froze, not because she was scared, because he hadn't been quiet. Her plan had worked almost. The paper crane she placed on his chest tilted slightly, uneven. She pressed it flat. Back in her room, she scrubbed her hands raw, her nails were bleeding. Her notebook waited. She wrote, "Travis Cole, corner store, April 10. Crane uneven." Her chest tightened as she stared at the word uneven. Something inside her recoiled. She whispered, "Concentrate. Focus." Meanwhile, Detective Mendoza didn't sleep either. He replayed the photos in his mind. 3 different deaths, 3 different paper symbols. Now a 4th. All in Marville's. All in the same radius. He pored over maps and times and noticed the irregularity in Travis Cole's alley. Something about the location struck him. The corner store had cameras, security cameras. The alley behind it was visible from 2 angles. Mendoza's pulse quickened. Somewhere, someone was leaving messages. He didn't know who. But he felt it. Closer than before. At school the next day, Evan waited for her. "Nevaeh, look, I don't mean to bother you, but..." She stopped, looking at him directly for the first time in days. "Yes. You're always somewhere else. You notice everything, people, patterns, things we don't see." Nevaeh blinked slowly, that small crack of recognition. She couldn't hide it perfectly. "Maybe," she said again, keeping her voice even. He leaned closer. "I think someone's using that, someone." She shut her locker with a sharp click. "You think too much," she said, walking away. But his words lingered in her ears. That night, she checked the box behind her poster. 4 shapes. 2 hearts, 1 star, 1 crane. Her hands trembled. The uneven crane sat off-center. For the first time, a small seed of doubt rooted itself in her mind. Maybe she wasn't perfect. Maybe she had made a mistake. Outside, a siren approached. closer than before. Nevaeh swallowed. One thing was certain, the patterns were beginning to notice her. The morning sunlight burned through the blinds, slicing Nevaeh's room into stripes of gold and gray. She lay in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling. Her hands rested on her stomach, but they twitched occasionally like they had a mind of their own. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in months. Unease. At school, the hallways felt different. Whispers didn't fade, laughter sounded sharper, eyes lingered too long. Nevaeh moved through them like she always did, small, quiet, invisible. But today, she noticed things she usually ignored. The way the janitor's eyes followed her near the vending machines. The way teachers glanced up when her name appeared in attendance. The way Evan's gaze seemed searching, concerned. She clenched her fists. Invisible wasn't working anymore. Detective Mendoza stood outside Jefferson Heights High in his black coat, coffee in hand, eyes scanning the lot. He didn't usually watch schools, not unless he had a reason. But the patterns had him obsessed. 3 deaths, 4 symbols, 1 suspect, young, quiet, careful. And he had a hunch the suspect walked these halls every day. Inside, he asked the principal for the floor plan. He asked about schedules. He asked about students who didn't stand out but whose presence left a ripple. The name Nevaeh Garcia came up almost immediately. Back in the cafeteria, Nevaeh sat alone as always. Evan approached. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. Her pencil traced shapes on her notebook, careful, precise. "I'm fine," she said at last. He didn't believe her. "You're lying," he said. "I know something's wrong. You've been, I don't know, watching, maybe, calculating." Her chest tightened. "You notice things," she whispered. "Yeah," he said, "and I notice you noticing." Her pencil slipped, tiny, imperceptible to anyone but her. Her hand shook. That night, Nevaeh walked the streets of Marville with a hoodie over her head, backpack heavy on her shoulders. She stopped at an abandoned lot behind a shuttered bakery. Her eyes scanned. Her hands, steady for weeks, trembled slightly. She unfolded her notebook. Marcus, Alicia, Travis. Now she was adding someone new. But hesitation froze her. Her pen hovered. The lines she drew felt uncertain. Perfection had cracks. Detective Mendoza had been waiting near that same lot for 3 nights. He didn't know what he expected to see, but when Nevaeh appeared, small, careful, looking over her shoulder, he felt a jolt of recognition. She wasn't acting suspicious, not yet. But something about the way she moved, the way she kept her head down, the way her fingers twitched, it was familiar. He watched her, long and quiet, until she disappeared behind the broken walls of the lot. Inside her apartment, Nevaeh faced the box of folded paper shapes. Green star, heart, heart. She added the 5th. A tiny square folded perfectly. But as she set it inside, she realized her hands had trembled. The flaw. A crack in the mask she wore so carefully. Her chest felt tight. Her thoughts tumbled, uncontrolled for the first time. What if someone sees? What if I'm wrong? What if Mendoza? She pressed her hands against her ears. Silencio, she whispered. Silence. The next morning, Marisol Vega asked about her again. You seem different, she said, eyes soft, worried. Nevaeh shook her head. I'm fine, she said. A lie. Because she was. That evening, Detective Mendoza returned to his board. Red strings connected 4 bodies now. Green star, heart, heart, square. Locations circled, timelines noted. One thing stood out to him: the killer was methodical, meticulous, precise, but growing reckless. Someone was slipping. Someone wanted to be seen. Mendoza pinched the bridge of his nose. You're close, he murmured. I can feel it. Nevaeh sat on her bed that night, notebook open. The shape stared back at her. Green star, heart, heart, square. She traced them with her finger, feeling the edges. They weren't perfect, not anymore. Her chest ached, her mind raced. And she whispered, barely audible. Uno más. One more. Her mask was cracking. And she didn't know if she could hold it together. Outside, sirens rose again. Closer than ever. That night, the city hummed with restless energy. Nevaeh's apartment smelled faintly of coffee and laundry detergent, but it couldn't mask the tension that settled over her like a second skin. She sat at her desk, notebook open, pencil hovering over the page. The shapes were waiting. Green star heart heart. One more. Her fingers trembled. Earlier that evening, she had walked past Travis Cole's corner store again. She had thought it would be simple. Routine, predictable. But the lights were different, shadows longer. Something felt wrong. Too many eyes. She turned, quick steps carrying her into the alley behind her building. Heart racing, she crouched in the darkness. Detective Mendoza had started piecing it together. He didn't know her name yet, but he recognized the rhythm. Pattern of deaths. Paper symbols. Careful placement. Calculated timing. Someone meticulous was getting sloppy. He parked his car near the alley, silent, watching. Inside school the next day, Evan found her again. "Nevaeh, you need to tell me something," he said, voice low, almost pleading. She kept her head down. "I'm fine," she said. He studied her. "No, you're not. I can feel it. You've been involved. Something's happening and I think you're part of it." The words hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, something inside her cracked. Her perfect control faltered. She blinked, keeping her expression neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered. But the lie felt brittle. That evening, she went to the abandoned lot near Fletcher Avenue. Her notebook trembled in her hands. The fifth shape waited to be drawn, a new victim chosen carefully, quietly. But she hesitated. A seed of doubt had taken root. What if someone had noticed her patterns? What if Mendoza? She shook her head, no focus. The pencil touched the paper. Her hands shook. The lines were imperfect. The shape of a crane was slightly uneven. For the first time, she noticed it. A flaw. A crack in the perfection she relied on. Meanwhile, Mendoza had returned to his office. The red string connecting Marcus Hale, Alicia Trent, and Travis Cole had expanded to 4 points. He stared at the board, tracing the lines with his finger. The shapes weren't random. The locations weren't random. He didn't know who yet, but he could feel the presence. A young girl, quiet, observant, too careful to be reckless until now. He pinned a photo of the abandoned lot on the board. And he felt it, she was about to make a mistake. That night, Nevaeh sat on her bed, staring at the box of folded paper. Crane star heart heart crane. She pressed the uneven crane flat, as though forcing it to obey. Her chest ached, her mind raced. For the first time, she felt fear, not of anyone else but of herself. Of the cracks she couldn't fix. Outside, sirens echoed. Closer than ever. Her mask was beginning to crumble. And she didn't know if she could hold it together. Rain fell in relentless sheets that night, turning Marville streets into mirrors of neon and broken light. Nevaeh moved silently through it, hoodie drawn tight, backpack pressed against her back. She wasn't scared, not yet. But she felt it. The first stirrings of danger that wasn't abstract. Earlier that day, Detective Mendoza had pieced together something that didn't sit right. 3 victims, 4 symbols, one pattern forming, but it wasn't random. He traced the locations on his map again. Marcus Hale, Club Aurora back alley. Alicia Trent, Fletcher Ave behind laundromat. Travis Cole, corner store back alley. A named boy, abandoned lot. Each death had a timing, a method, a signature. And each one was centered in Marville. He didn't know the girl's name yet, but he knew she existed. Quiet, careful, calculating. Nevaeh stopped near the abandoned lot, scanning the shadows. Her target, another man who had harassed her online, walked the street exactly as she had studied. Heart steady, hands ready. She counted the seconds, measured the light, the wind, the puddles. Perfection. But something felt off. Someone was watching. From the corner, Mendoza leaned against a brick wall. Camera pointed, eyes narrowed. He had followed the patterns for days. Now finally the suspect was here. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched. Nevaeh crouched behind a dumpster, notebook in her lap. She reviewed her past work. Crane star heart heart crane. Each shape a message, a warning, a mark of control. Her hands shook slightly as she folded the next paper. Something inside whispered, too close. Across town, Evan followed her. He had pieced together enough to know something dangerous was happening. Nevaeh wasn't just quiet, she was calculating. But he didn't know what she was capable of, or how far she would go. He ducked behind a parked car, watching her every move. He wanted to stop her, but he didn't know how. Nevaeh stepped from the shadows, paper in hand. Her target never saw her approach. Her movements were fluid, calm. Perfect. Until a car door slammed nearby. She froze. Heart hammering. A shadow moved in the puddle of streetlight. Not her target. Detective Mendoza. The line between hunter and ghost blurred. Nevaeh's mask, once flawless, began to crack. Her chest tightened. The shapes in her notebook, her symbols of control, now betrayed her. For the first time, she felt real fear. The hunter had found the ghost. Nevaeh's hands shook as she unfolded the last paper shape, her target's name written carefully in the margin. She glanced at the street. Empty, perfect. Her pulse thrummed steady, calm, controlled. She stepped forward. 2 blocks away, Evan ducked behind a dumpster. His eyes never left her. She's planning something, he whispered to himself. He wanted to call it in, but something stopped him. He couldn't, not yet. The alley was quiet. Her target walked past, distracted by his phone. Nevaeh moved closer. 1 step, 2. Then, a sharp click. Her shoulder jolted. Heart hammering. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the alley. Detective Mendoza. Nevaeh Garcia, he said, calm but commanding. She froze. Step away, he continued. Now. Something inside her snapped. Not fear, not yet. Anger, panic, control slipping. She dropped the paper shape into the puddle. Stay back, she hissed, voice sharper than she meant it to be. Mendoza didn't move, his eyes were steady, observing, calculating. You're not invisible, he said. I know you've been leaving a trail, and it ends tonight if you don't make it stop. Nevaeh's mind raced. She could run, she could fight, she could vanish into the shadows like she always had. But the street was wet, lights glaring, corners exposed. There was no perfect escape this time. Her target, sensing something, froze. Nevaeh realized she had drawn attention to herself. Her meticulous planning, her control was unraveling. She stumbled back. Paper crane floated in the puddle, soaked, ruined. Mendoza took a cautious step forward. Nevaeh, you don't have to do this, I know what you've been through, but killing isn't the answer. Her lips trembled. For the first time, doubt crawled into the edges of her mind. Her perfect mask was gone. Behind a nearby dumpster, Evan watched the scene unfold, heart pounding. He wanted to help, wanted to stop her. But what if she turned on him too? Nevaeh backed up, slipping slightly on the wet asphalt. Mendoza noticed the tremor, the hesitation, the first real crack in her composure. Talk to me, he said gently, I can help you. Her eyes flicked to him. Something unspoken passed between them. A warning, a recognition. And then, a noise from the far end of the alley, a car door slamming, footsteps echoing. The world closed in. Her breathing quickened. One wrong move, one step too far, and it would all end. The city of Marville waited, rain washing the streets clean, sirens blaring in the distance. Nevaeh's mask had finally cracked. And the hunter, Detective Mendoza, was no longer at the edge of her world. He was inside it. Marville was quiet that night, too quiet. Even the sirens had slowed to distant echoes, swallowed by the rain-soaked streets. Nevaeh walked alone, hoodie tight, backpack heavy, notebook clutched to her chest. Her pulse pounded not from fear, but from the thrill and dread of knowing her time was almost up. Detective Mendoza had anticipated her movements. He parked in the shadows, engine off, radio silent. He didn't need to chase her. She left a trail. Always. Evan followed too, slipping between alleys like a ghost of his own making. He didn't know what he would do when he caught up to her. He just knew he had to see. Nevaeh's target tonight was someone who had been underestimating her for too long. He waited near an empty parking lot, phone in hand, careless, unaware of the storm approaching. Nevaeh's fingers hovered over the wire she had prepared. She took a deep breath. 1, 2. From the shadows, Mendoza stepped forward. Nevaeh Garcia, he said. Her body tensed. She didn't scream, didn't panic. She froze. Step away, he commanded. Her eyes darted to the side. A figure emerged from the darkness. Evan. Heart racing, he stopped a few feet away, watching her, realizing for the first time that the quiet girl he had admired was dangerous. Nevaeh's mind spun. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to be invisible. Perfect. Not cornered. The target turned at a sound behind him. Hey, he started. Nevaeh moved instinctively. But her hand slipped. The wire dropped. A flash of panic. Mendoza reacted instantly. He grabbed her wrist. Her eyes widened. You're done, Nevaeh, he said, voice low but firm. Her chest heaved. The notebook slipped from her backpack. Papers scattered in the rain. Crane star heart crane. Evidence, symbols of her control. Now exposed. Evan took a step closer, fear and curiosity warring on his face. Nevaeh, what is all this? He whispered. She looked at him. The mask was gone. The calm, invisible girl no longer existed. Her chest tightened. Her voice, soft but sharp, broke through the night. It had to be done. Mendoza tightened his grip. You don't get to decide who lives and dies, he said. I do, she whispered. The city held its breath. Rain washed the streets, carrying the weight of all the lies, all the deaths, all the symbols. The hunter had found the ghost. But the ghost still had one card left to play. Nevaeh's eyes flicked to the scattered paper shapes, each one a frozen memory of what she had done. And she realized, even ghosts can bleed. The rain fell harder, hammering the asphalt and turning Marville's streets into a mirror of chaos and reflection. Nevaeh's chest heaved. The scattered paper symbols soaked in the puddles at her feet. Crane star heart crane. All of her control, all of her careful planning laid bare. She looked up. Mendoza stepped forward, calm but unwavering, his eyes locked on hers. You can't hide anymore, he said. Her lips parted. She wanted to argue, to flee, to pretend, but nothing came. Evan stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. His eyes were wide, a mixture of fear, awe, and disbelief. I didn't know, I didn't think, he stammered. Nevaeh's hands shook. It had to be done, she whispered. Mendoza shook his head slowly. You don't get to decide who lives and dies. No one does, not you. She looked around. The city felt suffocating. Every street corner, every shadow, every flickering light was proof. The lives she had taken, the symbols she had left behind, proof. Her mask had shattered. Her calm, invisible self was gone. For a moment, time slowed. Evan stepped forward, closing the distance. Nevaeh, why did you do it? Tears glimmered in her eyes. Because no one else would stop them, she said, voice shaking. Because I couldn't trust anyone, not my mom, not the cops, not anyone. Her gaze dropped to the puddle of paper shapes. They thought I was nothing. I just wanted to be safe. I wanted control. Mendoza reached for her, careful not to spook her. Nevaeh, it's over. You don't have to hurt anyone else, but you have to face what you've done. Her hands trembled. The weight of every life, every symbol, every plan pressed down. For the first time, she felt small. A noise behind them, sirens closer now, broke the silence. Nevaeh looked up, panic flaring. Her world had collapsed. No shadows to hide in, no careful planning left. Just consequences. She dropped to her knees, rain soaking her hoodie, fingers clutching the soaked papers. I didn't want this, she whispered. Evan knelt beside her, unsure whether to comfort or arrest, his own fear mirrored in her eyes. Mendoza took a step forward, hand on her shoulder. It's going to be okay if you cooperate, he said. Nevaeh looked at him, at Evan, at the scattered symbols of her life's work. The crane, the star, the hearts, once perfect, now ruined by rain and exposure. Her chest ached. Her mind spun. And then silence. The rain slowed, dripping from broken signs and graffiti-covered walls. Nevaeh closed her eyes. She had controlled everything for so long. But the city, the hunter, the truth, they had controlled her at last. She whispered one final time, almost to herself. It's over. Mendoza exhaled slowly. Evan placed a hand on her back, tentative, a silent acknowledgement of everything she had carried alone. Nevaeh stood facing them both, the last shred of her mask gone. And the city of Marville waited.
World, eyes down low, but mind awake, counting every breath you take, cracking mirror. actions, one more